Works have already begun to spruce up the mount. Most of it is still in a dilapidated state, but you can see things beginning to take shape. Carl Viegas gave me a tour of the grounds to explain his vision in more detail.
Behind us we've got the Mount Residence. With that in itself is a large property. We've got the events hall. But the actual grounds where the mount sits, that's pretty much as large as the Alameda Gardens themselves. So they extend all the way from Engineer Road, isn't it, to all the way to Jews Gate. So that is the actual size that we're talking about. We're talking of significant grounds. And it's divided into two main elements. We've got what I would like to refer to as the formal grounds. That clearly it's terraced, and there must have been a lot of care originally even by Mrs. Green, that would have lived here in the late 1700s, to then what is part of the nature reserve, which is a bit more wild, and it goes from this location all the way up to the top. So we have divided the scheme into two elements. One are the paddle courts in this area. So behind us what we have is a tennis court, and we are now already starting to section off the site, and works we're going to be starting there in the next month and take us through all the way probably to October. So the Porter's Lodge, in terms of the works involved, what we're doing is stripping the building down to its core elements. So the idea is to use this building as part of a satellite registry office, and many of the weddings and ceremonies that are currently carried out or have been carried out at Secretary's Lane, so those facilities could be offered over here. And the views, as you can see, are just magnificent from this area.
And it doesn't end there. The wider plans include a venue to host wedding receptions as well as other events.
This will add value to what is the Porter's Lodge. So the Porter's Lodge will become the registry office where you can have what is weddings documented. And this could be a ceremony room, it's an events hall. So to add to the experience of a wedding, places, Gibraltar can sell itself as a place where John Lennon and Yoko got married, Rod Stewart and Sean Connery. So I think Gibraltar can really exploit itself in terms of organising for weddings. And this, I believe, is a perfect venue.
That will conclude phase one of the overall project, the more manageable side of the refurbishment. There are grand plans for the rest of the grounds and huge potential, but also significant hurdles due to the extent of the decline in some areas.
We have a lot going on here, and this is the reasons why we carry out feasibility studies and the clearing out. And here, by removing vegetation, what we're seeing are retaining walls which clearly have failed. So even though this area is just wonderful to carry out some of the facilities that we envisage, outdoor learning, having a small amphitheatre with fantastic views of the bay, before we can do that, we really have to address what are key and critical issues. What we have underneath us and to the side are underground water tanks. Now, if we're talking about sustainability and making some of these properties more efficient, we can probably recommission what have been old water catchments in the Upper Rock, channel all that water into these tanks and start reusing that to irrigate the entire site.
The phased approach will allow the public to see the benefits of the work and begin enjoying the use of a place which has been neglected for decades. The hope is that this will spur further interest in bringing the rest of the project to fruition. The significant space it occupies means this place will hold huge appeal for locals and tourists alike when completed. Moreover, the rich history of the Mount is another factor which is of course not lost on Carl, who's been involved in many of the major renovation projects on the Rock over the past few decades.
I am lucky to be standing on the shoulders of giants. Here what we're talking is William Green. He was in many ways the designer of the fortifications of Gibraltar. So the King's Bastion that I was also involved with, that was his creation, his designs, knowing full well that Gibraltar was bound to be sieged. So this would have been his house, so he designed, even though it's been refurbished. William Green then became he was the grandfather of the soldier artificer, the Royal Engineers. So this is what I'm involved with. So these are the grounds that him and his wife were in 200 years ago. This was his property. So to be able to engage and try to be faithful to the design of the building is something that I treat with great satisfaction.